It was just a matter of time before I was found out. The apple may not have fallen far from the tree, but I was certainly no lawyer. A name? I had to give her a name, or the jig was up, something she could hang her hat on. It's Vice, Vice, baby. It's Vice, Vice, baby.
Let me unmute myself before I start talking. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I'm in my room, so hey, happy horrible lighting. I hope everyone is enjoying their Saturday so far. I know I am. It's been a good Saturday night, or it's been a pretty good Saturday in general. It's another day of the good old live reading. Got my trusty mega pint with leftover whiskey from earlier streaming with Megan and Flux. And I also got my water behind my laptop. So I am still drinking water, don't worry. Let's see, I almost say good morning. Well, good afternoon, night, Ginger with the Soul and Danielle. Good to see you both. So, gonna be reading two more chapters from Megan Fox's book, Believe Evidence. The death of due process from Salome to hashtag Me Too. This might be another shorter stream, but hey, I'm gonna, no matter how short the chapters are, I'm gonna stick with two chapters every Saturday. So, without further ado, here is your warning. Megan Fox does not give a fuck about your feelings. She will say whatever she wants to say, however she wants to say. Uh, the book may contain some sensitive wow. The book might, well, no, not might. The book contains sensitive subjects. So if you get offended by those or get triggered by those, whatever, thanks for visiting. Come back another stream. But if you guys are still here, let's get started. Why don't we? You guys know the drill. I'm gonna pause in between. So I'm gonna pause after this first chapter. Then I'm gonna uh finish with the second chapter. In between those, I'm gonna read chats, catch up on you guys, and I probably might have no comments again because I'll be repeating myself, but we'll see how it goes. This chapter is called Dina Macney. Dina Macney. People use family court and divorces to destroy their former lovers all the time. Both sexes are guilty of it, but women seem to have the upper hand in custody cases. In one particularly egregious case, Christopher Macney wrote in his suicide note that Dina Macney, her father, and the courts drove him to his final act. After trying desperately to take control of his blog so the world would never hear his story, Dina failed, and his suicide note was published for all the world to see. Sorry, for all the world to read. It led to a book by journalist Michael Volpe called Bullied to Death, Chris Macney's Kafkaesque, uh, Kafkaesque Divorce. Wow, I don't know, I'm struggling with that word. In his last attempt to get justice, Macney wrote, as a desperate man, I never wanted to speak out about any of this. All I wanted was a fair and reasonable child support, fair and reasonable visitation with my children, and be free to move on with my life. The only reason I chose to write a blog and speak out about the abuse was because I thought it would give me some kind of leverage, as I had none. I made it clear to my ex-wife's attorney that the family court was not allowing me to change the orders. I had no information about my children, and my child support was far beyond my ability to pay. I was hoping for some acts of good faith to let me know that they wanted to reduce the conflict. It never came, not in 5 years. I felt that my only recourse was to speak out about the abuse and injustice in order to get legal and psychological help. I needed to manage the conflict so that we could both parent our children. I reached out to my ex wife's attorney again to ask for any other alternative. When I read online about the patterns of behavior of high conflict divorce and how my ex wife was the one blocking access to the children and negatively interpreting everything I did, I spoke out and tried to address the source of conflict. No one would tell me I was wrong, but no one would speak out about the abuse on my behalf. Not the doctors or attorneys. Experts in psychology have called it abuse, but none would make such a diagnosis, which I could then take to court to obtain relief. As long as the pattern of behavior was not called abuse, my reactions would not be viewed in its proper context by the court. The way I looked at it was that if I remained silent, the abuse would continue. It did. I finally decided to speak out. They didn't care. They didn't care about how it would affect Dr. Saminoff, Judge Bellows, our children, themselves, or anyone else. They were not going to take their foot off the back of my neck. They were fully invested in having me out of my children's lives permanently. Bullying and parental alienation are forms of emotional abuse. Psychopathy is an emotional dysfunction. People with psychopathy are identified by how they handle conflict. It is the disturbing lack of empathy, guilt, shame, remorse that give them away. They're completely unaffected by the distress of others as long as they get away, as long as they get what they want. You never see that side of them. I had never been arrested, depressed, homeless, or suicidal before this family court process. The stress and pressure applied to me was deliberate, and nothing I could do or say would get me any relief. Nothing I or my attorneys said to my ex wife's attorney or to the court made any difference. Truth, facts, evidence, or even the best interest of my children had no effect on the outcome. The family court system is broken. I took my own life because I had come to the conclusion that there was nothing I could do or say to end the abuse. Every time I got up off my knees, I would get knocked back down. They were not going to let me be the father I wanted to be to my children. People may think I'm a coward, for giving up on my children, but I did not see how I was going to heal from this. I have no money for an attorney, therapy, or medication. I have lost 4 jobs because of this process. I was going to be at their mercy for at least for the rest of my life, and they had shown me none. Being alienated, legally abused, emotionally abused, isolated, and financially ruined are all the recipe for suicide. I wish I were stronger to keep going, but the emotional pain and fear of going to court and jail became overwhelming. I became paralyzed with fear. I couldn't flee, and I could not fight. I was never going to be allowed to heal or recover. I wish I were better at articulating the psychological and emotional trauma I experienced. I could fill a book with all the lies and mysterious rulings of the court. Never have I experienced this kind of pain. I asked for help, but good men did nothing, and evil prevailed. All I wanted was a guardian ad litem for my children. Any third party would have been easily been able to confirm or refute all of my allegations, which is why none was ever appointed to protect the children or reduce the conflict. Abuse is about power and control. Stand up for the abused and speak out. If someone speaks out about abuse, believe them. Please teach my children empathy and about emotional invalidation and gaslighting, or they may end up like me. God have mercy on my soul. After writing his last entry, Chris Mackney got into his car and put a hole in his head with a shotgun. This was a man who many described as a good father, utterly destroyed by a vindictive woman and a broken court system. There is no justification for any of this. Tens of thousands of parents are going through it right now in family courts where the so called silver bullet technique is employed to alienate them from their children and benefit the opposing spouse. This technique utilizes false claims of abuse and orders of protection to establish that your opponent is a bad person and therefore not able to be a good parent. This kind of dishonest abuse of system should not be allowed, but for the moment, it is put into practice daily to destroy more people like Chris Mackney for no good reason. And that was the first chapter of the night. It's a heavy start. It's a heavy start, and I believe that this will not be the last of it, for sure. Denise, how are you doing? Good to see you. Good evening to you too. Gender with the Soul, sad. Very, very sad. And it's not always, where the female triumphs and gets all the benefits from family court, but it's it's a lot, and I know you guys know that it is true, and I'm sure Chris Mackney is one of so many people that takes the same route as he did. We just don't know their story. But yeah, a little heavy start, and this will not be the last of it. I'm sure. Khadija Altamimi and Yasmin Sueed. In the wake of the 2016 presidential election, there seemed to be a rash of hate crimes against minorities. It seemed that way because the New York Times, the Washington Post, and all the alphabet channels ran with ridiculous tall tales of such night after night. We were told that Trump supporters across the nations were emboldened to harm minorities after Trump's election, and they did so with gusto, ripping off hijabs, attacking people with racial slurs, and more. The only problem was, none of it was true. Ann Coulter wrote an article published on Breitbart, the Great Hijab Cover Up, that detailed many of the hoaxes. I've read through dozens of SPLC hate crimes, and they are all lies. Muslim girls in particular seem to be very spirited liars. Since the election, there have been vivid stories from across the nation of Trump supporters tearing off Muslim girls' hijabs at University of Michigan, since retracted, Louisiana State University, also retracted, San Diego State University, that too was retracted, and New York City Subway, again retracted, and the University of New Mexico. No witnesses, won't reveal attacker's name or report the incident for investigation. The main takeaway from all these stories is we sure have taken in a lot of Muslims. They seem to have trouble assimilating to American laws about not committing mass murder. But the good news is, when it comes to America's culture of victimhood, they assimilate like fish to water. At this point, any claims of hate directed at Muslims, blacks, gays, or Hispanics by Trump supporters should be treated as if it is a UFO sighting. Presumed false, unless documented, with irrefutable evidence. But until the NPLC is up and running, here are some tips for journalists. Real hate crimes do not begin with laughably implausible scenarios. Try to use a modicum of common sense. They are almost always captured on videotapes, or at least are seen by actual witnesses who give statements to the police. Lacrimose accounts posts on Facebook do not constitute evidence. They generally result in medical treatment and arrests. Excuse me. This would have been helpful in the reporting of the alleged hate crime reported by Khadija Altamimi on the University of Louisiana campus, along with a spate of other campus reports in November of 2016. Here were some of the headlines. Hate crimes spike in wake of Donald Trump's win with 897 reports recorded in 10 days. The Independent. Women in hijab attacked at UL Lafayette by men in Trump hat. NOLA. Muslim women wearing hijabs assaulted just hours after Trump's win. NBC News. Muslim students at two college report violent assault by Donald Trump supporters. 17. University of Michigan student wearing hijab was threatened with being set on fire, police say. Washington Post. Wearing hijab in Trump's America. CNN. Drunk men screaming Trump's name try to rip off Muslim students' hijab as strafingers stand idly by on East Side subway, cop says. New York Daily News. Every single one of these articles claiming assaults had to be updated with new information that the girls had made it all up. But not before the fake news generated protests and fear all over the country that minorities were being targeted by Trump supporters. This led to more actual violence against Trump supporters at rallies where they were egged on film, battered, bloodied, and hospitalized by Antifa and others who thought they were punching Nazis. And honestly, why wouldn't they? Respected news organizations told him that Trump supporters were beating up minorities. Never mind that none of that was true. People believe the first story they read. They do not go back weeks later to see a small correction or update at the bottom of the article that says, "Sorry, we were wrong and she lied." Fake news is the enemy of the people because it creates violent situations and divisions that should never have occurred if they weren't actively trying to fit stories into their biases. None of the reporters involved waited for due process. None of them waited for investigations. Instead, they reported the accusations as true. This is not journalism. On November 11, 2016, Khadija Altamimi went to police and reported that she had been attacked. The Lafayette police wrote her account in the report number 16-00364659. Miss Altamimi stated that she was walking on Smith Street. A silver gray sedan traveling north on Smith Street passed her up and then turned in front of her and parked. Two white males then exited the vehicle and began to walk towards her. Miss Altamimi stated one male is described as wearing a red Donald Trump Make America Great Again hat with long dirty blonde hair, wearing a gray shirt and gray sweatpants. Second suspect is described as having dark hair with a scruffy beard and also wearing gray sweatpants. That description alone should have set off a lot of alarm bells, considering she described cartoon characters that sounded more like Joe Dirt than real people. The victim continued to describe her violent assault at the hands of these dastardly men. As the males exited the vehicle and started walking towards her, they started yelling at Miss Altamimi, saying, "What's up, girl? Where are you going? You don't belong here." Miss Altamimi stated she got scared and turned around and started walking away. At this time, both suspects approached the victim from behind and struck the victim in the back with what victim believed was an unknown metal object. One suspect began to pull her hair and grab her hijab and pulled her to the ground. Once on the ground, Miss Altamimi stated she was on her stomach while both suspects began to punch her in the back with closed fist. Miss Altamimi stated they yelled, "You terrorist bitch," several times at her, while punching her in the back. Miss Altamimi stated the suspects stole her black hijab and her pink New York and Company wallet. Miss Altamimi showed me the gray hoodie which she had on that had two holes in the backside where the suspects had either hit or grabbed her, causing it to rip. Miss Altamimi stated she sustained minor injuries to her upper and lower back, but refused medical attention by Acadian ambulance. Well, isn't that convenient? She reported getting beaten with closed fists by two men and refused medical treatment. The only explanation for that is because she did not want medical professionals to reveal that there were no evidence of the alleged attack. It is a mystery why the police would allow a victim to deny medical attention when the victim is asking them to put someone in jail for a crime. Don't you have to have evidence of the crime in order to do that? However, Lafayette police did a thorough investigation and found her story to be full of holes. The detective assigned to the case met with Altamimi on November 9, where she claimed she could not give clothing description because she was on her face at the time of the attack. Unfortunately, she had already described her attackers in full detail on the 6th. The detective wrote in his report, "I noted no obvious signs of injury on Miss Altamimi. She claimed she was struck in the head and face, but no bruising, swelling, or redness was observed. Witness reported seeing her and remembering her looking fine, not disheveled, and not upset in any way after the alleged incident." The, the detective continued, "It should also be noted that where Miss Altamimi was indicating that where the incident occurred, the CC's coffee house was outside seating, which is typically full of students during class hours. This outside seating has a clear view down Smith Street. There were no witnesses that observed the incident. When the police asked her to come for a recorded statement on the record, they got the truth. Miss Altamimi eventually stated she fabricated the entire incident. She stated she was in the building of Maxim, de- Maxim Dawson, where she observed a white male wearing a Trump hat, who called her a terrorist. Miss Altamimi stated she then fabricated the incident because she was hurt by the statement. She made the same statement to an agent with the Federal Bureau of Investigation who was present for the interview due to the possibility of her initial complaint being a hate crime. Miss Altamimi advised she fabricated the story due to her father catching her not wearing her head of scarf, and she needed a reason why. Miss Altamimi indicated she no longer wishes to be a Muslim, but does not know how to tell her father. This incident has been revised to criminal mischief and is cleared by the arrest of Miss Altamimi. Her conflicting statements during her recant tells the real story. There was no man in a MAGA hat, or if there was, he certainly didn't speak to her. The girl was looking for a way out of an abusive situation with her uber religious father. It had nothing to do with Trump's election. But according to the press, the election of Trump turned the entire country into a racist, xenophobic assaulters. This is why, when Trump says fake news is the enemy of the people, he is 100% right. Look at how the New York Daily News reported another hoax by another lying lunatic, Yasmin Suweed. Scavengers stood by and watched as three drunk white men repeatedly screamed Donald Trump and hurled anti-Islam slurs Thursday at a Muslim Barrett College student before trying to rip her hijab off her head on an East Side subway. The woman told Daily News this supposedly happened on a subway full of people and no one had video of this event. The New York Daily News never bothered to find some of these alleged witnesses. They just printed it off as if it were true. It turned out that Sueed also lied to avoid harsh punishment for missing curfew by her Muslim father. Perhaps that we should learn from these events is that Muslim women have much more to fear from Muslim men than from Trump supporters. The New York Daily News was forced to report the truth with Sueed being arrested for making a false police report. Her strict Muslim parents allegedly forced Sueed to shave her head over the incident and were upset that she was dating a Christian, sources said. The bareheaded college student, not wearing her hijab, was charged with filing a false report and released after arraignment early Thursday in Manhattan criminal court. It's a strange choice that they used the word allegedly to describe the state of Sueed's hair, which was obvious from the photographs that it was completely shaved off. Their use of the word is meant to protest Sueed's abusive Muslim parents from suspicion, while they did not use the word allegedly in regards to Sueed's claim of assault. Luckily, there were no named men in any of these assaults, but there were innocent people dragged through the mud and defamed. Trump supporters. And that was no mistake but a willful hit job carried out by fake news to harm the president and his supporters with lies and fabrications to further the narrative that Trump supporters are violent and dangerous people. The perpetrators themselves were also harmed by the fake news media. If the media had waited for investigations, they would never have reported these stories nationally, if at all. And the girls who were suffering abuse at home would not have had to go through the national shaming on top of it. In an effort to defame Trump and his supporters, the fake news media threw abuse victims under the destruction bus and then backed up over them. And that, ladies and gentlemen, were the next two chapters of Believe Evidence by Megan Fox. I always forget how to pronounce your name. Kyo? Ooh, I'm sorry. Welcome. Let me grab my water. Yeah, I have no comment for that second chapter. Because, like I said, I always pre read You Kept Me Company While I Folded Laundry. Oh, well, I'm glad. Like I said before, I always pre read the chapters just so I know how to pronounce the words, the so I don't mispronounce the names, but obviously I forget, and I'm sure 100% I've mispronounced some words. That's why, if you want, you can get this on Amazon. You can search on the search bar in Amazon. You can just type in Megan Fox author. This will be on the list, or Megan Fox writer, whichever we want to search. It will be on Amazon. That's where I got it from. And yeah, when I pre-read the chapters, I'm like, the first one will be a heavy one because it is a sensitive topic. Ending one's life is not always a happy story, which really I was so focused on that chapter that I honestly, and plus I don't have anything to say about the second one. Like I cannot relate myself um to the second chapter that I read tonight. So I really didn't have anything to say. Ugh. Yeah. But it's a fascinating book. Love Megan. Love the book so far. And we're not that far from the end. Let's see. We'll read page 129 next Saturday. So it's about a little less than 70 pages left, which is not bad at all. Not bad at all. How's it going, trucking? Trucking? Why did I call you trucking? How's it going, T Rex? There you go. That's better. There's a lot of frustration with the judicial process. Yeah, it seems like it. It does seem like it. And I mean, with this story, the first chapter that I read, now I know why a lot of lawyers on LawTube that I know of don't really like to do family court. There's too much drama in it, and they're not always fair. And like this, Megan Fox's book is kind of helping me understand how they all work. Like, sure, it focuses on women who ruin men's lives, but it also helps me understand how everything goes, even if it's talked in a um, negative tone towards the extreme feminists. I'm good, my friend. Just got done driving. Utah is beautiful, but I'm glad to be back east of the continent divide. Yeah, yeah. You were more kind in the mid northern Utah. Seemed like, at least from the couple places you told me that you were in. But yeah, that's it for tonight, guys. This is my last stream for tonight on my channel. I'll still be in people's chats, which I'm going to send you to MG Law because he's live playing his games and spinning the wheel of happiness. Ah, my plan for tomorrow, I don't know if I'm gonna stream. We'll see. Monday, I guess I'm gonna do a sidebar watch in the morning. I gotta text Megan, see if she's available. She says she's available in the morning, so we'll see. And I'll do a Maritime Monday stream for sure. Yeah. Also Monday. Family law is tough. You need a lawyer that is good at explaining the process and diffusing the frustration. Rest well, my friend. Denise, very true, 100%. And yeah, I hope you have a good one as well. Drove from Las Vegas, took 25 all the way to Salt Lake, then took 80 through Ogden, all the way through Nebraska, and now I'm in Missouri. Okay, so yeah, you've stayed mostly in northern Utah. You should have gone to southern Utah too. It's beautiful there. That's where all the desert comes in. It's just brown, orange, desert. But, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for joining me on this live reading session of Megan Fox's Believe Evidence, the death of due process from Salome to hashtag Me Too. I'll send you guys to MG Law. I'll probably see you guys over there. Well, I've been to Four Corners already. I was there August, almost died. Ooh, yeah. Not a good time of the year to go. But as always, my beautiful, beautiful people, stay awesome, stay beautiful. I love you guys. And I'll see you later. Have a good one.
Well, that's all for this stream, but it's been so sweet. Thanks for hanging with us, it's been a treat. We'll keep it warm, keep it real, take it slow. Catch you next time when the vibes are ready to flow. If you enjoyed the ride, give us a like, subscribe for the warmth. Come back whenever you like. Until then, take it easy, don't rush, don't hurry. I'll be here waiting, no need to worry. Vice, baby, always by your side. Stay cozy, stay calm, let the good times ride. Peace for now, but we'll meet again. Take care, my friend. Until then.